What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Oh, it's cold out here. How's everybody doing? I'm pretty good, thank you for asking. Today is leg day, but also I want to tell you about setting yourself up for the most successful prep that you're ever going to have. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm a full-time online coach. Everything I do is for online coaching. Actually, let me show you a little clip right now of Eddie Dennis. He was 2 days out. I went to go see him yesterday. Absolutely shreddies. I prep majority lifestyle clients and prepping clients, like for competitions, bodybuilding, etc. I get a lot of people come to me saying, I want to compete in 4 to 5 months. Can you help me? Odds are most of them I can't, because they're not in the position to cut. So I want to tell you how to get into the position to cut. People think, I want to get on stage, let's start. It doesn't work like that. You need to set yourself up first. You need to build some foundations. You need to get things in place before you do start. But before we get into that, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get it because I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling good. Slightly tender back. So I'm going to stick on what I did last week. I'm going to do a few reps. I'm going to see how it feels. If it feels good and I can stay safe, I'm going to push up. If I can't, I'm going to stay here. Hamstring focused day, so everything's pretty much posterior chain focused. I've got a little bit of extensions in, I've got a little bit of split squats in for the quads, but just like 4 or 5 sets for the quads. This is majority hamstrings. My other leg session in the week is majority quads.
Don't get excited cause I left radio sets. If I ever walk in, I'm a Kuma. Nah, who's I sell? Who? Brody. Still got friends that'll leave man holy. And I've got friends on the beam who holy. I did the brief for my mates, book a moldy. Molding blood, molding, mates fold up, blood, Bowie. I ain't got a CV, but
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That was a session that was really fucking difficult, actually. Don't really know why. I've just had some cardio been introduced into my rest days, which is fantastic. I think this is really gonna help digestion. I'm gonna shut this door. It's gonna help digestion. It's gonna help digestion. We actually have a lot of pelvic muscles that aid digestion. So actually walking, doing movement, moving more, keeping your steps high, and actually going for a walk after a meal is a very, very good idea, because it actually starts to stimulate digestion. So that's a cool little tip for you guys, actually taking a 5 to 10 minute walk after a big meal, or after any meal if you wanted to do that. Also a good way to accumulate steps. So I just had some cardio introduced on my rest day, which is fantastic. It's going to help with me recovery. It's going to help me stop feeling like just fucking off season, basically. It's going to help me stop feeling like that. So that's great. The first thing I want to talk to you about in terms of setting up a successful prep is the thought of you're probably not in a position to just go straight into a prep. Here's why. If you're not tracking your food, if you're not tracking your training, if you're not tracking your recovery in terms of sleep, supplementation, proper rest periods, proper active recovery, all that kind of stuff, if you're not doing that, you need to spend time doing that. You need to have control over all of your variables before you start manipulating them. You can't just go from, being fat and eating whatever you want, not counting calories, not doing any cardio, training, good, whatever, that's fine. But you can't go from not tracking all of these variables to just suddenly tracking everything and going into a prep. That's not how it works. First of all, you need to get a baseline, which is where you track your sleep, you track your training, you track your nutrition, you track your daily expenditure, you track your stress, and all that kind of stuff. So you've got that baseline level. You can't just go from no level really to just straight up there. Baseline level. Understand how many calories you're eating. It might be that we start get you on an equal macro over the week. You start eating regularly and you start eating the same foods every single day. It might be that you're only eating 3,000 calories and staying the same. If you're, in my opinion, if you're eating 3,000 calories or less, I'm going to say that, you're not in a position to lose weight. You're not in a position to lose body fat. What you need to do is to spend some time building that up. Now that might come with, and now if you combine that with high intensity training, talking like new training stimulus, low volume, high intensity, high frequency, combine that with a slowly tapering your food up, slowly, depending on the look, you can hope to just build muscle and just build metabolism. However, if you start tracking all these things and you're eating like 4,000 calories, you're pretty stable weight, pretty damn good with all your variables, you could probably hope to cut. And with Eddie, the guy who you just saw earlier, that's exactly where he was. He was tracking his food. Yeah, he wasn't tracking everything, but he was in a good position to actually start. And then once we started tracking sleep, once we started tracking nutrition, while we started tracking everything else, the rest just fell into place. So consider how much food you're actually eating, because at the end of the day, you've only got a few tools when you're looking at fat loss in terms of natural bodybuilding. A little bit different in terms of drugs you can use, kind of fat burners and stuff, but natural bodybuilding, you got to eat less, you got to do more, you got to recover good. Those are pretty much the three things you can manipulate. Obviously, the worse your recovery, the worse these two are going to be, the worse the result. Like if you're at 3,000 calories, you're not doing any cardio, we slowly put in cardio, we slowly take away food, you can end up under 2,000 calories, you can end up under 60. I've had people under 1,500 calories before. If they need to get that, you need to get that. But the higher your calories go in the off-season, trackable off-season, not just, oh, I'm eating 4,000 calories, but not actually tracking it. I get that a lot. Oh, I eat so much food. Are you tracking it? No, you don't eat a lot of food. You know, come to me when you track everything and then you're eating 4,500 calories on clean food, then I'll believe you. So pushing those foods up really high and tracking all those variables in the off season is paramount. There is no off season, there is only an on season. You just transition across in terms of strength and putting on weight. That's literally the only difference, is that your strength will get higher and your weight will go up and your body fat will get less. Otherwise, training should be the same, recovery should be the same. In terms of training being the same, yeah, it's going to change over the year anyway in terms of volume, but like the principles are going to remain the same. Progressive overload, you know, all the keeping tissue, all that kind of stuff. So that's my first tip, guys, is make sure you're tracking these variables for a considerable amount of time before you start to cut, because when you start to cut and you introduce all these, you might find that you're not in a position to cut. And yeah, next tip in a minute. So my next tip I want to talk about is using your tools, your toolkit. What do we have in our toolkit? We have training variables, so we can adjust training volume. We know that obviously doing more work, you're going to burn more calories. That is going to affect your calorie balance. That is something that we can affect your calorie balance with, which is essentially what we want to be trying to do. However, we obviously want to be focusing on training for muscle retention. So this is probably like one of the last things I would do. Obviously, I would keep things very intense throughout, and I'll probably keep volume a little bit lower than off season. Next one, cardio. This allows us to manipulate. This allows us to manipulate our calorie balance and more. So if we've got a calorie balance here, training is the same, food is the same. We know if we increase cardio, the calories are going to come down slightly and push us more into a deficit. So that's something we can use. However, we know that cardio also affects training, so you want to be keeping that in mind. If you're doing a lot of cardio, it's going to affect training. If you're doing a bodybuilding, focusing on your legs and you're fucking smashing a Stairmaster and smashing legs, it's very difficult. You've got to go to some crazy mental places to be able to handle that, and that's fine. If you can do that, then great. I've been there and it's hard. So also nutrition, we mentioned that earlier. Nutrition going up, going down. We know that adjusting our calories, adjusting our food is going to, again, affect that calorie balance. So we obviously need to prioritize protein. I'd also prioritize carbohydrates over fats, because carbohydrates are probably going to give us a better performance, raising fats up on the rest day, as we know that our like immediate glycogen demand is a lot less if we're only just doing steps or maybe a little bit of cardio. You'd warrant the carbs, but if not, you could put fats higher and just allow it. That would just give us more sensitivity to everything, to insulin. That would just give us more sensitivity to insulin on our training days, allowing us to utilize more of the carbohydrates for our training, which is what we're focusing on. So everything winds back down to keeping training optimal. So when you do implement these variables and use these tools, You've got to use them strategically. Don't just wing them all in. I've heard of people saying, I'm cutting now, I'm going to do 30 minutes cardio every day. So if you go from doing none to 7 days, that's going to fuck you up, that's going to fuck your training, you're going to put yourself straight into a position where you're going to lose muscle. You've got to think about it. Bring them in on your rest days so it doesn't affect your training. Bring them in slowly. Slowly manipulate calories through all of the variables rather than just one the whole time. I'd also rather keep cardio out for as long as possible. But if you've got to lose the weight, you've got to lose the weight, you've got to do the cardio. So this is just preferences. So use your toolkit, guys. Don't use it all at once. Use them one by one. Use them tactically. Think about what you're doing. Prioritize training, and think about that always. Alright guys, my last tip is going to be, if you want to do it right and you want to get skin shredded, prepare yourself, because it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard. So you're going to need to push to places that you might not have been before. You're going to put strains on things that you might not have had strains on before: relationships, family, job, whatever you're doing. So you've got to be careful, but you've got to stick with it, and you got to mentally understand what you need to, what you're about to undertake. And if you've never done it before, just know it's going to be hard, and just stick with it. Don't give up. Listen to your coach if you've got a coach. Trust yourself if you're doing it yourself. So let me run a summary over the perfect prep for someone. Now, if I'm going to run two scenarios. One is if you're overweight, too much overweight. One is going to be if you're perfect. If you're too much overweight, depending on how much overweight and how far away you are from stage lean, we're either going to drop straight into a deficit and we're going to remove some body fat, not even thinking about your competition. We're just going to get leaner so that when you do come to competition prep, you are in a lean position to prep. You only need to lose maybe 7 to 10 kilos rather than 2 stone plus. You know, I've done the 2, nearly 3 stone losses, and you lose a shit ton of muscle with it. So you've got to be smart. So first things first, will be a recomposition phase, trying to build calories while trying to lose body fat. If we can't build the calories, we just keep going. We drag hard to pull off the body fat. That we need, and prime ourselves for a muscle building phase, and that will be where you push up calories up very slowly, but quick enough to note that your metabolism is firing. We're training hard, all the variables are controlled, and then we keep pushing those calories up till they're in a position to cut, and then you can warrant a cut. This could take 6 months, this could take a year. You just got to stick with it, because if you're not in a position to cut, you're not going to do it. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get lean enough. And I've made that mistake with clients before. I've said, yeah, they'll be ready, and we've pushed, and it's not been right, and that's me holding my hands up. I should have recognised that earlier, though the client shouldn't be in that position anyway. That's my fault to diagnose that and change that. So that's something I've learned. It's actually just being in a position where you can cut. If you're already in a position where you can cut, you will be controlling your sleep, you will be controlling your supplementation, you will have full control of your nutrition, and hopefully like macronutrient timing, and hopefully your full training program is pretty damn good, your training intensity is good, your form is good, your mechanical execution is good, and digestion is good, and everything is good. Toilet movements are good, you've got regular cycle if you're a girl. There's so many things that have to be good in order to prep, and then as soon as you are at that position, we start the prep, and then it's golden. So to set yourself up, you've got to look beyond the 16 weeks that you need to cut. If you're not controlling all these things before, at least for a few months, you're going to have a much harder time. I'm not going to say it's impossible. There are people that can do it. I've had guys come to me 10 weeks away and they've been like pretty good nick and they haven't controlled anything. And then we've just got control of those variables and they just change like that. There are those people. The majority of us, we're not like that. So guys, if there's one thing you take from this, plan, prepare, and execute properly. Don't rush into it. Don't make the decision too quickly. It's easily done. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. See you very soon.